way, shape, or form, whether it was we brought in a guest speaker or we, hosted other students from high schools and things like that. So it's looked a lot different over the past several years, but 3 or 4 years ago, we made the decision to stop bringing in a guest speaker and start using our own speakers, because our senior scholars have had incredible leadership education over the past 2 years, and they have a lot of knowledge that they would like to share with our campus community and our surrounding community as well. And so we challenge them every year to come up with a theme that really embodies how they feel as a class, what they feel our campus community needs, and just a way to give back and educate other students who don't necessarily have the opportunity to get this type of leadership education, and give them some really good takeaways that they can implement in their own lives, in their own organizations, and things like that, just to help them. So this year's theme is Empower, and they will do a lot more explaining about that whenever they come and take the stage. But first, we would like to introduce our guest speaker, and Rick has a short story he'd like to share.
Thank you, Missy. Yes, my name is Rick Hassel. I serve as the faculty director for Rogers League. For those of you who may be here for the first time, and we're very glad we have great crowds. A lot of alumni. Where's the lead alumni in the room? Raise your hands. Where's the alumni? Oh, all over the place. Stand up if you're leading along. If you're leading along, stand up. Come on. There we go. Okay, how many of you have a person or people in your life who made such a powerful first impression on you that you still remember the day that you met them? Okay, me too. And one of those people for me is Cole Stanley. Okay, so when Missy asked me, can you tell your favorite Cole Stanley story? I was like, that's easy. I'm going to tell a story about the first time I met him. And I'm so glad Shadow's here too, because she's a part of the story. So here it is. 20 years ago, fall 2002, Laura and I came to WT. And after the move, we do what a lot of people do. We went through the process of finding a new church home, right? So one Sunday, I don't know, probably the third or fourth church that we visited, we were walking out of the church, and this couple comes up to us, introduces themselves, and starts a conversation. Well, that couple was Cole and Charlotte, and I still remember it to this day, and so does my wife. And I can't tell you probably a word that was said in our conversation that morning, but I can tell you exactly how they made Laura and I feel. And you're going to hear some words like authentic tonight, kindness, probably more than once, and those would be the words I would use to describe that conversation. It was authentic, and it was kind. And those of you, I see a lot of people nodding, so a lot of you know Cole and Child, right? So as we turned to walk away, I looked at Laura and I said, wow, they're really nice. And she looked at me and said, yep. They're good people. We need to go to church here. And I'm not the smartest guy in the world, but when my wife says something with that much certainty, I've learned the only right response is absolutely. And so I said, absolutely. We joined the church, and it changed our lives. So other than just have the opportunity to tell my favorite Cole Stanley story, I also want to take this chance to thank both of you for your kindness and your authenticity 20 years ago. It did change our lives, and Laura and I are very grateful for the impact that you've made, and we're glad that you're here, buddy. Thank you.
So I'm going to introduce Cole a little more formally than Rick did. Cole Stanley is first and foremost a citizen of the Kingdom of Heaven. Secondly, a Texan by birth and by choice. And lastly, he's your Amarillo City Councilman, place one. Cole believes in a simple government philosophy: the smaller, the better. Local government should be focused on public safety, transportation, and clean resources such as water and waste. A government that grows beyond that as its main focus will always struggle to prioritize the citizens' needs over its own. Cole is a family man. He and his beautiful wife, Shiloh, have been married for 22 years and have 2 daughters, Avery and Addison. Cole is a businessman and has been in the construction industry for over 24 years and is proud to be a builder in this community. Cole Stanley knows that through faith, family, and freedom, we can build a better future for all of Amarillo. He serves on the Arrow Child and Family Ministries National Board of Directors and is a founding member of Arrow Health Solutions. Cole has a heart for mentoring business owners and has helped start nearly 30 small businesses in Amarillo. Cole Stanley is a proven leader who has dedicated more than 20 years of serving people in our community. Please help me welcome to the stage Mr. Cole Stanley.
Thank you, guys. The mic is on.
Be careful, it's hot.
Thank you. Appreciate it. Thank you, ma'am. Hey, good evening. You know, the Rick story was great. I mistook him for someone else that I thought I knew that night. I'm kidding. I'm kidding. We really did want to go get to know them. So we've known you and your lovely wife for a while and have always enjoyed you guys. And there's an affinity. You get around different people, you know, sometimes, especially if you travel, you get outside of Texas. You almost kind of can see somebody, you're like, it's a good person right there. You're probably from Amarillo, you know. Hey, I want to thank you guys for having me here tonight. Thank you for letting me be your guest speaker. I really probably will be fairly short and sweet. I've got a little deal that I would like to do, and then honestly tonight I would like to, I know we're hooked up Zoom. I'd love to do a little discussion, question and answer. And so my hope here tonight is to be able to give you a message to impart just something to you that has something to do with what I've come from and what I've come through. And then I want to challenge you. I hope to kind of offend you a little bit. And so if I offend you tonight, I've done a good job. If every one of you likes me more when I leave than when I came, and maybe I didn't give a good message. So let me tell you a little bit about myself. I'm a Randall High School kid. Went to Gene Howe Elementary, Valley View Junior High, which doesn't even exist anymore, and then Randall. And then I went to, and Shiloh and I started dating when I was in high school. We were juniors. And so we were high school sweethearts and then dated for 5 years and got married and had our first daughter. Her name's Avery. She owns the Bubble Bar right over here on 4th. So we're trying to sell you guys boba tea and macaroons and all sorts of stuff. So as a good businessman, I have to constantly try to advertise, right? So Shiloh and I dated, and you know, I tried Amarillo College. I went for, I think, maybe 6 or 7 times, and I knew, like, this is not me. That's not who I am. So I don't stand up here tonight to try to impart something to you that probably is kind of what you're expecting. Like, I'm not an academic. I'm not an intellectual. I can't point to the books that are for sale outside that I've authored. You know, whether I've ever done anything in my life that I would define as success really has to do with my message tonight. And so I'll let you kind of be the judge of what you think in the way that I like to define success, because we started when I was 19, and I had an opportunity to get, I knew I wanted to be self-employed. I loved my 2 favorite words, which were unlimited potential. And so I just knew, like, man, it's going to be easier to try now than it will be when I'm 30 and I have a mortgage and 2 kids. And so at 19, I started my first business. I had a partner, and he had, of all things, a mobile home park, and they needed it paved. And so we got in the asphalt paving business. And so we were in business and out of business within 6 months. And it was the hardest 6 months of my life. I lost probably 20 pounds, and I'm a smaller guy, so I didn't have 20 pounds to lose back then for sure. And so I worked really hard. I learned a lot of lessons, but what I learned most was, man, it was okay to fail. I probably learned more through that one failure than I have in most other things in my life today. And so that's part of the message here also. Later, that I want you to know that your challenge that's coming to you tonight is like, failure's okay. You know, are you brave enough to take a risk? And then, you know, I want to talk to you at the end of the evening here just about safety. You know, in construction, we all say safety first. Well, maybe not tonight, right? So, being a construction guy, I want to start our evening off. I brought some things, and so I hope it's not too elementary for you guys, but I love visual aids. And I already told you I wasn't an intellectual or an academic, so it's okay. So if you will look, Wesley, do we have, can you tell me, are they under the table? Where are they? if everyone would look under your chair, I'm looking for somebody who has a screwdriver, like a man screwdriver. It's like full size. There we go. That's what I need. Now, if for some reason you have something else under your chair, just hang on to it for a second. So this gentleman right here, you're perfect. Can I ask you to come up here, please? So we're going to do a little visual aid real quick. My name's Cole. Dylan, good to meet you. Jump on up. Okay, I'll hold it, and you do the work. So you have a screwdriver there. It also has some tape on it that's going to complicate things, but you can leave it. It's fine. Here's a nail. We got a good-sized nail here. And so, can I trust you? Yes. Okay. As just a quick example, man, Dylan, I just want you to drive that nail into the plywood board there for me. And you can use that tool however you want. Yeah, and I do like my left hand. So. Okay, that's pretty good. That's pretty good right there. So, can you get that out with that screwdriver? There we go. Awesome. Okay. Hey, so far so good. Dylan, I appreciate you, man. You've been a wonderful participant. I'm going to keep that. Thank you. Does anybody else have something else underneath their chair? There's something. Oh, there's a gentleman right there. Please come forward. I told you it was a little elementary, but we're going to get to the point here pretty quick. How are you, sir? My name's Cole. Come on in. What do you got there? A man-sized hammer. I'm surgical with this one. I can do work with that. So that's got some weight to it. You mind? I'm going to have you hold the nail this time. Okay. No, I'm going to have you hit it too. You got to do it all. It's all you. I didn't mean to take the hammer from you. I'm going to hold the board. Yeah, just put it in there. Yeah, perfect. I like it. Oh, well, maybe one more. Oh, man. Okay, all right, we're going to hold off before you turn that into a power tool. Okay, I'm going to take it back. Hey, thank you, sir. Appreciate you coming up. Round of applause for our participants. Man, guys, I know that's kind of simple, and we're not all in the 3rd or 4th grade anymore, but this is good just for me to drive home a point. And I find that I remember things that I connect with. And so what I'm here to do tonight is just impart a message to you. And so here's the message. It's real simple. Your empowerment, your power, comes before your identity. And your identity comes before your purpose. And I don't care who you are or how you define success, by whatever measure you choose to use, the fulfillment of your specific purpose, whatever you do to accomplish your purpose in this life, that is the definition of success. How much of that purpose you fulfill and you understanding your identity, because ultimately you're a uniquely created individual by God, and you have a specific purpose that no one else can truly fulfill. And so when you recognize that my power comes from knowing my identity, and my identity is what I have to know before I can know what am I good for, what should I be doing with my life. So this is a power tool right here. And with the right tool, we can get some work done. Now, I'd hate to drive nails all day for a living. I used to. But I'd sure hate to do them with a screwdriver. And the back end of a screwdriver flipped around doesn't pull nails out very well. And honestly, when you hit your thumb a couple times, like, you really want to have the right tool so you can get your hand out of the way. And so I just came here tonight to talk to you a little bit about where your true power comes from and how easy it is to miss it. And so I want to tell you a few things that are biblical, but I want to tell you they're true. One, you have an enemy, and he came to steal, kill, and destroy. Okay? And two, he's after your identity first. He wants to steal your identity because he knows what I know, that without knowing your identity, you'll never fulfill your purpose. And without fulfilling your purpose, you'll never fulfill that part of you that needs to define your own success. And if we can keep you from that, then you're powerless instead of powerful. And so in life, we have the ability to understand that we need to know who we are first. We need to understand our own identity, and we can find that in looking into ourselves and figuring out what am I called to? Where am I going? What are my unique traits? And not all of us are screwdrivers, not all of us are hammers, but we all have a specific purpose, and we're all created and crafted in such a way that you can see with the challenges that are around you where you're being led, where you're being directed. Some of you guys here are on a great path. You're going through college, you are studying, you're learning about yourself. I just want to tell you the second truth here tonight. We learn through adversity. And so we don't usually learn a lot through easy lessons. We don't usually learn a lot through easy classes. We learn our identity through adversity. And so if I told you that this was a power tool and that it was a little dangerous, and once you figured out how to use it, I said, hey, be safe. Safety first. Here's some bubble wrap. I need you to wrap this thing up. Make sure it can't hurt anybody. That way if you hit yourself with it, you won't hurt somebody. You know you can kill a man with a hammer. So it is dangerous. And so when you find your identity and when you figure out your purpose, I'm telling you, you're dangerous. And the world's going to lie to you. It's going to try to take your identity. It's going to try to keep you from your purpose. And it's going to do it in one real slick way. It's going to say, man, you're dangerous. You need to be safe. And so I'm here tonight to tell you that in college, I can't encourage you enough to take some risks, to put yourself out there, to get out of your comfort zone, to go and find out what you're made of, and to be willing to fail. And failure is okay. It's how you respond to that failure that matters most. The number one thing that I see, I'm 44 years old, I hire good quality people for a living. I sit in a nice seat downtown Amarillo. I get to see some of the best and the brightest community leaders, people that are impactful, people that are in places of power. The number one thing that I see that detracts from their ability to impact their community is fear. The fear of what it looks like. What will they say? What will they think? The fear of failure. What if I lose what I have? You know, well, if I go for that, do I lose this? Earlier in the week, I had an opportunity to kind of overcome my own fear. I'm in a pretty comfortable seat. I'm in place one at Amarillo City Council. I could rerun for that as an incumbent. It's probably a pretty safe one for me. But I chose to leave that and to petition the mayorship. So I'm leaving place one, and I'm running to be the mayor. Well, I can't be afraid of leaving what's behind, and I may not get it. It's a pretty big deal, you know. There may be some good competition out there, and so that's okay. And what does it look like? Well, you're the guy that ran and lost. You know, you're the guy, you had a pretty good deal, and then you thought too much of yourself, or you put yourself out there too much. Whatever the issue is, you, ladies and gentlemen, will never fulfill your purpose in life if you listen to that fear. And the way to overcome that is to just put it on the line. Don't be afraid to fail. And don't be safe. I'm telling you, everybody in your whole life right now, you're a soft generation. You know it? My generation's not quite as soft, but not as tough as my dad's. I can tell you that. Every year, or every generation, we seem to get a little softer. But the world you live in right now is telling you, be safe, sit down, be quiet, conform. Be what we tell you. Don't stand out. Don't be unique. I'm telling you the exact opposite. Take a risk. Put yourself out there. Go start a business. Start a family. Take that relationship to the next level. Do whatever it is in your life that you know you're called to. You've got to follow that piece. And I'm not saying to take unmeasured risks or to do things that are foolish. But within yourself, that challenge where you know this is going to take everything I got. Don't be afraid. Don't be afraid to do it. And so that's my message to you here tonight. Your power. And one other thing, you know, power attracts the worst of us, and it corrupts the best of us. And so the key that I'm giving you here tonight is your identity is tied to your integrity. And that power that comes from within that is righteous. And it doesn't corrupt because it's you. It's the power that's from outside, not from within, that corrupts. It's the power that the world can give you. You know? So I'm going to go down to the city and I'm going to get elected because I'm a leader. I'm not going to become a leader because I got elected. You're the same. You're a leader. You're an influencer. You're an impactor. So, like I said when I started, I don't know however many minutes ago, I'd be short and sweet. We have some really good teachings tonight, and I look forward to being able to sit out here and listen and learn from you guys. I really appreciate y'all letting me get up here and talk for a brief moment. I am looking here at a little video chat, and so if you guys are okay, I'd love to get a few questions and answer going. Does anybody here in the audience, before we jump on these, have any question, anything I've said here you disagree with, or maybe you agree with, and you're not quite sure, like, man, what does that look like? How does that play out?
Okay, it's on. So my question has to do with, after that first failure, you talked about taking the bubble wrap off and being dangerous. After that first failure, how did you go on and say, I know that this is my purpose and I'm going to continue, instead of assuming, no, this is not the direction that I need to go in?
So that's a great question. There are some failures in life that lead you to the next step. And sometimes, man, we just are going the wrong direction. And you'll find that door closes and then the next door closes, and you kick one down and it closes again. And you know, life will teach you that you're on the wrong track, usually that way. However, failure doesn't look like that. Failure looks like, man, I don't have enough money to stay open, but I'm still a hard worker. And so what we did was we went out and bought a bunch of equipment to get in the asphalt paving business. And then when we didn't have enough work, I said, well, man, I could use this equipment to haul trash. And so my failure took me to the landfill. So I would go to lunch with my girlfriend, and I didn't smell too good some days. And I literally lived at the landfill for several months to make money to pay off the equipment that I owned until I could sell it. And so in life, when you get into real life challenges, you work your way into them and you work your way out of them. So there's a big difference in quit and failure. So see, I never quit. And I'd tell you that's probably where I would draw the line. Whatever it takes for you to keep moving forward, even through that failure, is that success. And that's what I learned was, hey, I got myself out here. I'm going to get myself to the next step, and then the next step, and the next step. Consequently, I went to haul trash and had a builder that said, hey, man, you know you pick up trash pretty good. So, like, would you like a job? And I was like, heck yes, I would. I'm tired of going to the landfill. And so I worked for him for about a year. And then what I knew was, you know, I needed that year to learn, and I knew that what I really wanted to do was build things. And so that gravitational pull that's inside of some of you guys, you know you're an architect, you know you're a lawyer, you know you're a nurse, whatever it is. Those are the things that you've got to know while you're moving forward in order to not quit.
One from this side of the room. I'm looking for a hand. I know some of you by name.
So we don't have anything on the Zoom, so that's pretty good.
I have a question for you.
Good.
Yes, ma'am.
So tonight you spoke about your failures. So what would you say one of your biggest accomplishments in life is?
I have a lot. I really do. I have some really good ones to pick from. So let me be real genuine and tell you, like, business is not that big of a deal and not that great of an accomplishment. I live, and I really try, and I love the eternal perspective. So in my life, I feel like you get to live this life just once, and it's for a very short time. But for all eternity, you will look back on how you lived this life and what you did and who you impacted and truly like how you loved people, you know. So probably one of my biggest accomplishments, and I'd have to say my biggest accomplishment is we've been married 22 years. So way rougher on her than it has been on me, but still a lot of work for me too. So that to me is the hardest road to go down because I'll say, let's assume I'm a good husband, right? I think my wife would probably tell you I am, but let's assume I'm a good husband. In order to accomplish that, what I've had to learn is I've got to die to myself every day. And that I have to esteem others as better than myself. And that goes against my human nature as a red-blooded American male and like everything else that my life wants to tell me. And so that's my biggest accomplishment in life so far is the days that I've gotten up and done that, and I've checked it off. I quit having that argument with myself, well, I didn't get this, or I didn't get that, or this isn't fair, or whatever the workload is that became too much. The days that I just smiled and I had a good attitude and I went and I served other people, I served my wife and I served my kids. That by far is my biggest accomplishment. And I would tell you, if at the end of this life, people say, man, he was a great dad, well, that's success to me.
So what would you say are some good steps that you would either give or you take to move out of your comfort zone for people who are uncomfortable with that?
That's a great question. I would tell you that's a pretty easy one. And so because we're all so different and we all have so many different things, I can tell you that for me, there's a difference in fear and a little bit of nervousness. So, before I got up here to speak to you guys, because y'all are fairly intimidating, I had to kind of take that deep breath, and be like, you know what, this is going to be fun. Let's just enjoy the ride. Let's get up there and let's try to do a good job. When you feel that inside of you, when you know, like, I really should say something to this person. I really should step out. I really should compliment this guy. I'm going to make his day. Like, you kind of feel like when that teacher's asking, questions, anybody want to volunteer? Is anybody ready to jump? It's the same feeling you get before you run a race, maybe before you get into an athletic competition. That, to me, is a really good guide that helps me know I'm supposed to do this thing. And you can use that almost all the time. So, like, peace is a really good compass. So when your compass is always pointed towards peace, you're going the wrong direction. Anxiety, fear, panic, that kind of stress is a really good compass too. When you're going that direction, you're going the wrong way. Best thing you can do is stop. And so most of us won't stop. And you know what keeps us going? We're afraid of what it looks like. What are they going to think? What if, but you still know the difference. And so learning to identify the difference between that good kind of flutter, that anticipatory adrenaline, I'm going to take on this challenge, that's never let me down, versus the fear or anxiety that I have when I know, like, I've done some business deals that I knew they were going to be bad from the beginning. And the whole time, I knew I was doing it bad, and I just knew the whole time I was going to get hung up. And then when I got hung up, it was like, I knew this was going to go wrong, And so that's a longer answer, probably not as clean as I would love to have given it to you, but peace is a really good compass.
When was one of the times the world has told you to play it safe in your life?
Man, okay, so I guess I'm a politician because I'm an elected official, but so my government has told me to do some things, and like I've chosen not to. I've been told over the last year and a half, almost 2 years, like, you need to sit down, you need to be quiet. You don't need to bring this subject up. We're not going to talk about this. And I haven't. I've made it an intention to ask questions and to try to put some things out there that don't add up, And so I'll give you an example that's not popular, and this will probably get everybody talking, but like the COVID vaccine, that's a really big one, and like at the time, we were, with a healthy sense of fear. We didn't know what was going on. For 2 weeks, like, you can't go out there and just do whatever you need to do. Let's stop, slow down, and make good decisions. But you look back over the last year and a half to 2 years, and I think we've asked some good questions. And I'm not here to talk about the vaccine, but I'm telling you, as an elected official, I was told to do some things. You know, like tell you to close your business down, or tell you you have to wear a mask, or you have to do these things, you have to do those things. And so for me, those were things that went against some of my core principles in the way of like, man, we're a free society and we run our businesses, and I believe in your personal rights and your personal property rights. And so we look at all of this from the mask and the vaccine and everything that went on, and we're still in this today, and even talking about it right now, you can feel just a little bit of like this, you know? So like, maybe I should listen to that feeling inside, right? Like, well, I'm jumping out there. It hasn't done me wrong yet. And I don't want to be afraid to talk to you about what I think. I don't want to be afraid to be who I am. This is it, you know? And so, love me, hate me, reject me. That's a really big thing that I had to cross for the last 2 years, because I was in a position where it was a bow your knee and get on board and say you approve something that you really don't, you know. The simple truth is I'm not a doctor, and every one of us is different, and there is no one way for me to decide for all of you what your medical decision should be, right? That's such a simple truth. And so we were being asked to do that on the governmental side a little bit, and we were just overreaching. We kind of took it a little too far, in my opinion. So there was an answer you weren't expecting. Okay, I saw one hand here.
So you told us about how you didn't go to college, you worked at a landfill.
Mm-hmm.
So how did you get to the position that you're in?
I love that. Thank you. I won't go too long on that because it's a longer story. But so I'm enrolled at HKU. I don't know if y'all know that. I said that in Mrs. Marr's class, and they all kind of looked at each other, and I said, well, it's Hard Knocks University. And they still didn't understand, and I spelled it K-N-O-X, and I said, you know, you'll never meet a graduate, and there's no alumni. And so when they quit finally, like, trying to figure it out, I just explained it. I said, Hard Knocks University is the school of hard knocks. Like, that's what I signed up for. So when I chose not to go to college and not to get a formalized education, I enrolled in the school of hard knocks, which is life. And so you get knocked around and you get beat up and you got to be a fighter. And so when you're self-employed, I mean, just the averages, within the first year, 50% of all businesses that start go out of business. Within the next 5 years, 50% of them. And so you're bucking the trend if you hit year 6, right? So for me, when I didn't go to college, I didn't give myself any safety net. I said there's no going back. There's no turning around. I'm going that way, and I'm going to push and fight until I make my way. And I think it's because I knew who I was and that's what I wanted. And I wasn't ready to make that decision earlier in life. Some people aren't ready at that age, but we're all being brought to that place in our life where we know it's my time. I want to test it. I want to try myself. I want to see if I've got what it takes. And I think a lot of us kind of live there. But I always knew if I failed, I can always go get a job, right? And so for me, that failure was going to look like, once I had given it everything I had, even to the point of like maybe having bad credit or not being able to pay a bill, you know, I was willing to do that, and then I would just go pay that debt off over time and dig myself out of it. But even if I had failed in my second go at it, I think I probably would have tried again. It's just hard not to, you know. Are we good for one more, or are we done?
One last question. I think, Rick, there's one. Oh, there's a couple.
I don't want to take too much time, guys. I love this.
This
but
side of
I
the
don't
room's
know
rallying.
y'all
I
do.
love it. Okay.
When you failed, did you reach out to any resources? Was it embarrassing, and what were some of these resources?
Yeah, so when I got in business for myself, my grandmother gave me 10 grand. So you can't really start with nothing. You know, everybody has to have a start. That's one reason that I think we enjoy investing in people so much. So like we truly do look around at people that we can invest in. And as a business mentor, like we've tried to do that and we've been successful at it. So there are people around you that will invest in you when you're trying to start your business, even if that's after college and you've got your degree or your practice is getting going or whatever. I went to a banker and I did look for resources. So I walked in a bank and I found a banker and I told him, I said, hey, my name's Cole and I'd like to see if I can sit down with you. And he said, no, man, I don't have time for you. Like, you know, if you want to open an account, go talk to one of the tellers. So I was walking out and another banker walked up and he was like, hey, how are you? And I said, man, I'm good. I was looking for a banker. He said, well, I'm a banker. And I said, well, I'm not trying to borrow any money. I just wanted to open an account, and I just wanted to tell my banker to watch it, and then I wanted to show him that over the next 2 or 3 months that I'd pay all my bills. And then that way when I come back in like 3 months or so, you could see like I'm a good person, I'm a good guy, I'll pay my bills, and then I'm going to need to borrow some money. And he said, what do you do? And I told him, I said, well, I started a little remodeling company, and I'm just jumping out on my own, and I'm just doing handyman work or whatever I can find. And he said, what do you want? I said, man, I don't know. You know, they call it a line of credit. And he gave me a $5,000 line of credit. And sure enough, man, I would advance on that line and then I would pay it back. And then I would go and I'd do a job and I'd advance on that line and pay it back. And at the time, $5,000 seemed like, wow, we could truly live for like 2 months on this. You know, like if we didn't make $1, at least we could eat for 2 months. But that 5,000 turned into 50, and then that 50 turns into 500. And so he who is faithful with little is faithful with much. And that banker knew that. And so today, that banker is still my banker after 25 years almost, 24 years. And there are people that are willing to invest in you. There are people that are willing to take a risk on you. If you're looking at your current resources around you, then you're looking down instead of forward. And so, like, this is not the way to be successful. This is not the way to take on a challenge. But I'll tell you, like, this is. And so when you're right here, you can see what's around you. And you are the resources. Man, I know. At 44, I'm feeling old already. My knees hurt. It takes me longer to get up the stairs in the morning. And, like, you guys are it. You know, y'all are coming through, and we're counting on you. So I hope that answers your question. I think I probably better call it at that.
We actually have one online, but it's really little. Let's see. What if someone doesn't have enough resources to take a risk over and over?
Yeah. You'll never have enough. That's a lot in line with your question. So those are really good questions because you're smart people and you want to calculate. So every person should measure the cost. Count the cost before you go do something. Sit down, seek wise counsel, talk to your friends, talk to your parents, get good guidance. But then you're never going to have enough. I guarantee you this world is going to require you to risk more than what you have. There's no such thing as a safe risk. And so that's why we call it risk. So measure it and count the cost, but I promise you the money that you think you're preserving or saving or whatever, it can go away overnight. And so you just cannot make your decisions on the rest of your life based on, do I have enough or can I afford this loss? This life is not asking you that question.
Thank you.
All right, thank you guys so much. I really appreciate y'all letting me get up here. So thank you. I'm going to turn this off. Maybe.
Cole, thank you so much for being here. I know that you spoke some really wise words into our students, whether they are online with us, which is really awesome, or in the audience today. So let's give Cole one more round of applause, please. Okay, so our senior scholars are about to present, but their presentations are pretty continuous, and so we're going to allow you guys to take about a 10-minute break. We'll start back again at 7. If you would like to have some more food, please enjoy all of it. We would love for you to have that. The restrooms are also out this side, and you can use those. And then we will get started at 7 again with our senior scholar presenters.
to me, okay? It's good to have you here, Ashley. Appreciate you being here.
Good evening, everyone. We are the Rogers Lead class of 2023, and welcome to this year's Leadership Summit presentation, where we will be talking about how to empower others to become a leader.
Being a smaller class, it was really important for us to empower each other. So each one of us will be talking about the key components that made us empowering leaders.
Just let everybody get seated first. So for this first part of the presentation, my group will be going over what it means to have a servant heart and how we can use that to empower others to become a leader. And so my name is Jake Day, and I'll be going over what it means to have a servant's heart.
My name is Holly Thomas, and I will be talking about how a servant leader can make sacrifices.
My name is Jess Avila, and I'll be talking about why loyalty is an important factor on having a servant heart.
My name is Erin Arias, and I'll be discussing what makes perseverance key to having a servant heart.
All right, well, so to get things started, I'd like to ask y'all, what does it mean to have a servant heart? Well, the definition of a servant is tiny. It is simply one that serves others. And so from that definition, you can come to the conclusion that someone with the heart of a servant is geared towards serving others. They're not so much worried on their own individual success as they are building the success of the group as a whole. And in fact, Robert Greenleaf, the founder of the modern servant leadership movement, in his book titled The Servant as Leader, he defined the servant leader as someone who shares power. They put the needs of others first, and they help people develop and perform as highly as possible. And when I read this quote, I can think of no greater example of a leader with a true servant's heart than that of Jesus Christ. In Mark 9:35, Jesus is quoted as saying, "If anyone would be first, he must be last of all and servant of all." And so even Jesus, someone who was alive thousands of years ago, even he recognized that if he wanted his followers and peers to be successful, he was going to have to lower himself in relation to them and put all of his energy into building his followers up. And this would eventually lead to him giving his life for the whole world's sake. And while thankfully none of us are going to have to go to that same extreme, sacrifice is a crucial part of what it means to have a servant's heart. And so now I'll pass it on to Holly as she explains why sacrifice is so important.
Okay, sacrifice is a trait that can come easy for some and harder for others. It can be a learned trait, but to truly excel in sacrifice, you need to be comfortable with change. Being comfortable with change will further your abilities in being ready for the professional world. I'm pretty sure all of us had a really good example of sacrifice growing up. Our parents made the ultimate sacrifice, whether it was to provide financially or to put career goals on pause to raise a family. One sacrifice, or one key example of sacrifice I want to share today is my mom. She flew 6 hours today to come see us perform our senior summit, so I want to say thank you. She's in the back corner, that's why I'm looking over there. But as college students, we also make sacrifices. Whether you're like me and you're coming to school 20 hours away from home, or you're going to school 20 minutes from home, you're sacrificing time spent with your family to further your education. And not only are you furthering your education, you are also furthering your leadership skills without even realizing it. Leadership requires vision, it requires a desire to serve others with selflessness, and it requires sacrifice. Now, when we were doing research for this project, there was no true definition of sacrifice as it pertains to leadership. But when we were doing the readings for everything, this was a quote that really stuck out and really stuck with me of how sacrifice and leadership can work together hand in hand. I now want to turn to some of y'all and see what sacrifice and leadership works and how it works together in y'all's minds. Any takers? Okay, good. Good thing I had it prepared. Michaela, what's yours? Thank you. Ivy? So everybody has their own definition of sacrifice, but a key common interest in all of those definitions is selflessness. Sacrifice that causes pain is no sacrifice at all. True sacrifice is joy-giving and uplifting. Now, I'm sure we've all heard the stories of Gandhi in our history classes, but not only was Gandhi a historical icon, he was an icon in servant heart leadership. He sacrificed his comfortable family life and professional law practice to further the wealths of the common man. People that couldn't speak up for themselves, he took the time and performed civil disobedience and peaceful protests to further their freedoms. He led the assault marches to Dandi. He was the key figure in India gaining their independence from Britain. Without Gandhi being a sacrificial leader and a servant heart leader, who knows where modern day leadership could be today. But not only was Gandhi a sacrificial leader and a servant heart leader, he was also a loyal leader, which will now lead to Jess.
Awesome, thank you. Before I get started, I just want to thank my family for coming and supporting me and my Rogers Lead family. So I'm going to be talking about loyalty. Loyalty is a strong feeling of support or allegiance. It is being a consistent follower of something, so that leads me to the question, what are you a follower of? And this can simply be anything, so you do have to be careful. But for example, it could be a favorite sports team. I love soccer, so mine would be Argentina. You could do a country, religion, family, friends, or maybe even a school, such as WT. Loyalty is a moral responsibility that each person in this room has in order to promote and protect the interest of others. It goes above and beyond to enhance the qualities of having a servant heart. So that leads me to a book, and it's called Loyalty Rules by Frederick Reichheld. We learned that loyalty is the pinnacle of authentic leadership and having a servant heart. Some extra characteristics of having a servant heart are trust, and upon trust is vulnerability. Most of the time, loyalty is about what you do, not exactly what you say. It's so easy to say something, but much harder to prove and follow through with your actions. I also just want to mention LEAD. We are a 2-year leadership program, and in our first year, we are considered junior scholars. As a junior scholar, we work with nonprofit organizations, and while we work with our nonprofit organizations, we're able to build those one-on-one connections that essentially build trust, like I mentioned a second ago, and vulnerability. So that also leads me to a Bible verse, and it's called, it's Proverbs 20, verse 6 says, "Many say, 'My loyal friend,' but who can find someone worthy of trust?" And this can go as deep as you want it to, but by a show of hands, who in this room has someone to hold them accountable? Awesome, I see all those hands, and if your hand isn't up, that's okay, but I'll make it a challenge. I challenge you to find someone that can help you, that can hold you accountable. So a little bit about me. I graduated this past December with my bachelor's in sports and exercise science with a minor in physical therapy. I always had friends to keep me accountable. Some were from the Catholic Student Center, but most of which will stand on this stage before you today. Although it hasn't been easy, it's been well worth my time and effort to be a part of Rogers Lead WT. With loyalty, lifelong connections can be made that's built with a purpose. Becoming who God wants you to be starts with your thoughts. Every single person in this room has the capability of doing great things, but only if we allow ourselves. You know what, let me say that again. Becoming who God wants you to be, it starts with your thoughts. Every single person in this room has the capability of doing great things, but only if we allow ourselves. Wake up to that first alarm. Pray. Go eat breakfast with a friend. Go work out. Like Cole was saying earlier, do whatever you need to do to set yourself apart from everybody else. Even if that means persevering through the rough times, which will lead us to Aaron, who will be talking about perseverance.
Thank you, Jess.
I'm going the wrong way. Cool, now we're going the right way. Perseverance. I can do all things through Christ that gives me strength. Philippians 4:13. This is by far my favorite Bible verse because it is so short, yet it is so impactful. To me, it means that even through our most greatest difficulties and challenges, it's important to realize that God will always be there to help us get through them. Now I'd like to define perseverance. The dictionary's definition is a continued effort to do or achieve something despite difficulties, failure, or opposition. However, my definition of perseverance is the ability to pursue with determination even through the most difficult challenges that may come forth. Now granted, both of these definitions are very similar. Mine is unique in the fact that I aspire to be a large animal veterinarian. And because of that, this will be no easy task. Just like many of you in this room who are also willing to pursue a career that will have rigorous outcomes. Now I'd like to tell you a story. Last semester, we read a book called Discover Your True North by Bill George. In this book, there was an excerpt of a woman named Anne McColney. In 2001, McColney became the CEO of Xerox. At the time of becoming the CEO, the company was almost at bankruptcy, and over 96,000 employees were going to lose their job. She knew she had to do something to empower others around her to reach a common goal. She exemplifies the perfect example of what it means to have a servant heart and lead through perseverance. Therefore, she goes to answer the question I had asked previously, what makes perseverance key to having a servant heart? Well, to put simply, perseverance helps guide and encourage those with a servant heart to be the truest version of themselves. Now I'm going to take a second for you to read this. As college students, we face many difficulties and challenges. Most times, we're going to face some failures too. But it's important not to let these failures define us, because in the end, they will help us grow. So, as college students, I'm going to ask you, what are you going to do to persevere through your own challenges and difficulties? Because, as Nelson Mandela says it best, it always seems impossible until it is done. And that includes walking the stage at graduation.
All right, well, at this point in the presentation, we have gone over 3 traits of what it means to have a servant heart. And while there are certainly many more than just these 3, we believe that these traits in particular are most effective at showing your followers that you care about them and that you want to see them grow and succeed. And this, in turn, will lead those very same followers to become leaders of their own and following the cycle that you started. And so, to round it off, in order to effectively empower others with a servant heart, you need to be willing to make sacrifices on your behalf for the betterment of the group. You need to be loyal to your group no matter what, and you need to be willing to persevere through all types of difficulties and challenges. And with perseverance comes consistency. And so now the second group will come on and explain why consistency is so important to empowering others.
So all leadership is the same thing. It's about transitions. So if you were to all leadership is the same thing. It's about transitions. So if you were to go to the gym, right? It's like exercise, right? If you go to the gym and you work out and you come back and you look in the mirror, you will see nothing. And if you go to the gym the next day and you come back and you look in the mirror, you will see nothing, right? So clearly there's no results, can't be measured, it must not be effective. So we quit, right? Or if you fundamentally believe that this is the right course of action and you stick with it, like in a relationship, I bought her flowers and I wished her happy birthday, and she doesn't love me. Clearly I'll give up. You know, that's not what happens. If you believe there's something there, you commit yourself to an act of service. You commit yourself to the regime, the exercise. You can screw it up. You can eat chocolate cake one day. You can skip a day or two. You know, it allows for that. But if you stick with it consistently, I'm not exactly sure what day, but I know you'll start getting into shape. I know it. And the same with the relationship. It's not about the events. It's not about intensity. It's about consistency, right? You go to the dentist twice a year, your teeth will fall out. You have to brush your teeth every day for 2 minutes. What does brushing your teeth twice a day for 2 minutes do? Nothing. Unless you do it every day, twice a day for 2 minutes. Right? It's the consistency. Going to the gym for 9 hours does not get you into shape. Working out every day for 20 minutes gets.
Hi, I'm Alessandra, and I will be speaking today about authenticity and leadership.
Hello, everybody. My name is Luis Alcala, and today I'll be talking about empathy.
Hello, I'm Jillian Melendez, and I will be talking about inclusion.
Hello, and my name is Sarah King, and I will be talking about self-empowerment.
Now first, when you think of the word leader, who comes to mind? I'm going to pick on some people. Crystal. That's cute. Ivy. That's sweet. Aw. Rick. These are so, like, sweet. Okay. Well, I had a little different vision. Martin Luther King Jr., Queen Elizabeth, Michael Jordan, hashtag the GOAT, George Shultz, Elon Musk, and Winston Churchill are some of the common leader archetypes of today's society. However, leadership in the 1980s looked a lot different than it does today. Back then, leaders were assumed to be this charismatic male holding power over others, and that's not true today. Leaders today are more culturally sensitive, their titles are just words on a plaque, and they're focused on being powerful and self-aware. So as a group, we decided that an empowering leader needs to stay consistent in authenticity, having a sense of empathy, the ability to develop inclusion, and self-empowerment. So a leader should be authentic in how they lead, but what does authentic actually mean? It means to be genuine and intentional in your actions. Kind of like the app we're all consumed with. Be real. As soon as that notification goes off, we're all scrambling, trying to get the best picture of who we are and what we're doing at the exact moment. And this can apply to leadership. Be true to yourself, and leadership will be easy. Just be real and be you. And before I move on, y'all gotta be real. Give me 1 second. Say cheese. Be real, guys. Be real, guys. All right, let's move on. Oh, here's some of my favorite ones. But, yeah, just give it a moment, look at them. There's Rick looking very cute right there. There's us on a hike. That was cute. All right. So there are 3 steps to achieve authenticity in leadership. Step 1, understand yourself as a person and okay, we're back on. So this might, where did I leave off? Okay, understand yourself as a person, as a leader. This might be through sitting down with some quiet time, with self-introspection, or just writing down your ambitions and goals in life, or assessing your relationships and seeing if they align with your priorities. And lastly, ask others for feedback. Sometimes we can be blinded by our own ambitions. Step 2, discover your strengths, talents, and weaknesses, and utilize them to empower others. Everyone has different strengths and talents unique to them. So remember, someone else's strengths are a complement to your weaknesses, not a threat to your position or authority. So gentlemen, the next time your girlfriend wants to help you pass level 18 of Modern Warfare 3, just hand her the remote. And step 3, establish your personal values and ethical boundaries, as they will act as a moral compass to guide you through the chaos of life and leadership. And all these steps are important, but integrating is the best way to keep authenticity in your life. So here we have a very convertible Porsche, a very pretty convertible Porsche, and a minivan. It can hold your groceries, it can hold the soccer balls and all the kids. But money aside, which vehicle are y'all choosing? Porsche. I hear Porsche. Porsche. That seems like the Porsche is a winner. But I have a story for you that helped put integrating into perspective for me. So there is a football coach, the collegiate level, super successful, made a great earning, and he rolls up to practice in a minivan. Now all the assistants are like, what are you doing, guy? Come on. Well, he responded in simple words. I'm a family man. I need a car suitable for my family, not a single man. You see, he could easily afford the convertible Porsche, but that's not what his life was about. So integrating is about bringing all aspects of your life together to live a more successful, fulfilling life. The more authentic you can be as a leader, the more successful and empowering you'll be. Next, Luis will tell us how empathy plays a role in empowering others.
Hello. Alrighty. So, my name is Luis again, and today I wanted to talk about the importance of empathy. So, what is empathy? Well, empathy is the strength or the theme of sensing the feelings of other people around you. Now, the strength of empathy is very dear to me, as it is my number one strength. Growing up my whole life, all I wanted to do was be kind and respectful toward the people around me. But I never really knew what empathy was until I arrived at WT. Once I arrived at WT, I was surrounded by great people all around me, and including in lead. So they taught me about empathy and how I could use that to empower the people around me. So, why is empathy important? Well, empathy is crucial to any kind of group setting because it helps people feel understood and it makes people feel valued. When people feel understood and valued, then they can really start to get work done. Empathy leads to higher strengths and implementing those strengths among a group. Empathy leads to understood cause between a group, and that way people can really focus on their goals. So, how does consistently using empathy lead to results? Well, for one, as Jess mentioned earlier, as junior lead scholars, we work with nonprofit organizations in Amarillo. Last year, my group and I, we got the blessing of working with the Park, which is the Panhandle Adult Rebuilding Center. Now, here at the Park, we would go every week and be consistent with it and volunteer with the members. At the Park, there's many things to do. There's classes, you can learn about budgeting, finance, interview courses, or sometimes we'll just go there and play some bingo. Now, I have many countless memories at the Park, but one of my favorite memories is right here. This is where I'm talking to one of my good friends, Reggie. Many times at the Park, I would just go there and sit down with somebody. And I was lucky enough to sit down with Reggie one day. I just asked him about where he's from, how he's been doing, what does he value. We figured out that we have a common interest in music, and we just started talking about music for a good while. So after that, every time I went to the Park, I always got to see Reggie. And we got to continue working on our relationship, and now we have a really good friendship. I actually saw him earlier this week, and it felt like we just never left each other. So, by consistently showing empathy to one another, Reggie and I were able to build a great friendship. Now, how does empathy look on a research standpoint? Well, this research was done by a business school here in the United States and a business school in Malaysia. The main purpose of this research was to see how different levels of empathy tie into the production levels of a company. So, they got CEOs from the United States, CEOs from Malaysia, and right here you can see the two variables, empathetic concern and perspective taking. Empathetic concern relies on how much empathy people show each other and how much they care for each other. Perspective taking dives into how employees come up with new ideas and how they can collaborate with each other to get higher results. So the research concluded that business leaders here in the United States use more empathetic concern towards their employees and how they value each other, and that led to higher productive levels in the company. Empathy and emotional intelligence. Empathy and emotional intelligence tie directly in with each other, and emotional intelligence is the degree of how you can react to your own emotions and the emotions of other people. In Lean, we learned that this is a crucial part of working within a group. As not everything will always go steadily within a group, you must be able to control your own emotions and how you react to the emotions of other people. So, how do we consistently implement empathy in our daily lives? Well, there's a lot of good ways, but a good baseline is I took this from the University of Norwich School of Nursing, and it's hearing, understanding, and sharing. By hearing each other, you make sure people feel heard, and make sure you listen to their problems. By understanding, it takes an extra. In Lee, we learned that it takes an extra step to really seek and understand people. Next, you can share. By sharing with others, you can relate to them on maybe a personal story or in other ways. So here's a little group picture of us, really having lots of fun. But today, I challenge you to offer empathy to the people around you, whether this be your family, your friends, or maybe just someone that's totally a stranger, like how Reggie and I were. I encourage you to offer empathy towards other people to make them feel valued and understood. I see empathy as a form of love. So in a way, I challenge you to show love to other people and the people around you. And what a great component of being empathetic towards people is to be inclusive. And that leads us to Jillian.
Cuevas, Lucas, and McMahon, in their book Exploring Leadership, explain that being inclusive means actively engaging in the diversity of views and aspects of individuality, such as gender and culture, that add multiple perspectives to a group's activity. And I think it goes easy to say that collaborative individuals with unique ideas versus a group of individuals with the same ideas will more than likely result in a more effective project. Because if you think about it, everybody will be performing at their own strengths and at their own abilities. As Luis mentioned earlier, empathy is the theme of being able to sense the feelings of other people. Now, I believe that empathy can simply be seen as a prerequisite to being able to lead through inclusion. And again, as Cuevas and his co-authors explained, by allowing individuals to perform at their own strengths and at their own abilities, individuals of a group will be able to develop their own initiative. Here you'll see a diagram of the 7 principles for inclusive education. Now, to provide a little more context, in every mainstream school, there are about 5% of students that have dyslexia. And unfortunately, it is very common to see that these students with dyslexia and other learning disabilities do not receive the same amount of empowerment from their teachers as do other students without these learning disabilities. So in response, we found a study about how 2 Greek educators utilized the inclusive teaching style in order to fully integrate students with dyslexia and other learning disabilities in a regular PE class. So by allowing the students to cater the PE activities to their own level of ability, the Greek educators were able to teach all students, prevent prejudice, promote social justice, and adapt and integrate lessons appropriately. So here's an example of what the Greek educators did. If the PE activity of that day were rolling a ball, they would give their students a criteria card. At the top of this criteria card, you will see an explanation on how to roll a ball. After that, the students will be asked multiple questions, such as, which ball will they be using? Now, if it's easier for a student to carry a bigger ball, they'll choose maybe a basketball or a soccer ball. And if they want a little bit of a challenge, maybe they'll choose a tennis ball or a ping pong ball. After that, they'll choose their target, from what distance will they be rolling the ball, and with which hand will they be rolling the ball with. So again, like I said, by giving these students the choices on how they will be performing this activity, on how they will be rolling the ball, the students will be able to develop their own initiative. Now, I'm going to be using the park again as a great example of helping others develop their own initiative by being inclusive, by creating an inclusive environment. So at the park, they encourage each and every one of their members to indulge in a new activity every time that they visit, whether it be starting a new coloring page, maybe starting a new crossword puzzle, or finishing an accounting worksheet from the previous accounting lesson that they had. Again, the members are able to indulge in an activity according to their own ability. Again, enforcing that environment of inclusiveness, allowing them to perform at their own ability. So by allowing the students to cater the activity to themselves, and by allowing and encouraging the members of the park to consistently come back and finish a project that they began, members of a team will be able to see an increase in improved performance, organizational commitment, achievement of organizational goals, and gains in employee well-being. By having all these things, leaders are encouraged to push the idea of inclusion and, more importantly, create self-empathy.
Authenticity plus empathy plus inclusion equals self-empowerment. As you have heard today, these three topics, if you combine them together, leads to a more self-empowered you. So let's go into a little bit more detail in how you can grow in each of these three topics. First, let's talk about authenticity. So back to what Sandra was talking about with authenticity. Authenticity is becoming the best you can be and becoming self-aware. How can we become self-aware? Well, first, it boils down to your top 5 strengths. Now, by a show of hands, who knows your top 5 strengths? Awesome, I love seeing those hands. Okay, so can I get an example of your top strength? Includer? Achiever? Learner? Awesome, those are some awesome strengths. So my top strength is achiever. So now let's say, for example, your top 5 strengths are like achiever, focus, input, responsibility, and intellection. Well, as you see, three out of those 5 strengths are in the executing tab, which means you're more of an executor, which means you love to get things started and you love to get things done. Another component of becoming a authentic you is your top 5 core values. So now again, by a show of hands, who knows your top 5 core values? Awesome. Awesome. So now this topic is not really the most common compared to your top 5 strengths. So your core values are pretty much what you yourself believe in. So let's pick a word from here. Let's say kindness is your top core value. So if you believe that kindness is your top core value, then you believe that everyone should be treated with kindness, regardless of the day of the time, because when we interact with each other, we don't know if we are interacting with people on either the best day of their life or the worst day of their life, and so we believe that treating everyone with kindness just impacts their life, which then also leads us into empathy. So back to what Louise was saying with empathy. Empathy equals emotional intelligence. How exactly can we build in our emotional intelligence? So there's 2 things. So first is defining your emotions. So putting a definition on your emotion, whether that be sad, happy, mad, whatever. And then the second step is whatever scenario you're in, you recognize that emotion, and you recognize that emotion and you feel that emotion. Once you feel that emotion, then that will lead into emotional regulation. So with that being said, emotional intelligence builds better emotional understanding, which equals empathy. And along with that, empathy builds better personal relationships, which then also leads into becoming a more inclusive you. Because with empathy equals inclusion as well. Because let's say for example, you're listening to one another, or you're educating each other about their walk of life. Well, you can't really be empathetic if you're not willing to learn from someone. It's just the way it is. So along with that, if you're both an inclusive and empathetic person, then that will allow you to be able to listen to each other better, and along with better learning from each other. So, so with these three topics, excuse me. So with these three topics, these will not only empower others, but empower yourself. Because here's the thing, y'all. You cannot empower others if you're not self-empowered yourself. So with that being said, self-empowered leaders, when self-empowered leaders empower others, they make an impact in people's lives, and which is exactly what our last team will be talking about.
Next lesson. Lesson from a cook over there in the galley. Son, make sure your servant's towel is bigger than your ego. Ego is the anesthesia that deadens the pain of stupidity. Y'all might have a relative in mind you want to send that to. Let me say it again. Ego is the anesthesia that deadens the pain of stupidity. Pride is the burden of a foolish person. John Wooden coached basketball at UCLA for a living, but his calling was to impact people. And with all those national championships, guess what he was found doing in the middle of the week? Going into the cupboard, grabbing a broom, and sweeping his own gym floor. You want to make an impact? Find your broom. Every day of your life, you find your broom. You grow your influence that way. That way you're attracting people so that you can impact them.
My name is McKenna Cavalier, and I will be talking to y'all about positive and negative impact.
My name is Wesley Brown, and I'll be talking about the categories of positive impact.
My name is Hannah Holt, and I will be talking about self-development.
My name is Quinn Dunham, and I'll be talking about how to empower people in your everyday life.
So impact is the action of having an effect on something. In leadership, this turns into the action of having an effect on someone or others. When we talk about positive and negative impact, we first think about like good and bad, right? So positive impact all begins with a smile, with your body language, your posture, your tone of voice. Like Rick Rigsby was talking about in the video, John Wooden is a collegiate coach at UCLA, and he was found sweeping his gym floor. And I want you to think about a time when you were in athletics, or a time whenever you had a coach or someone leading above you. If you ever witnessed them doing something like sweeping their gym floor, pursuing an action that helps the people around them that nobody else really wants to do. When it comes to negative impact, I like the concept of intent versus impact. We read a book last semester called Exploring Leadership, which Jillian talked about just a minute ago. And, you know, whenever you go in to have a conversation with someone or others around you or speak in front of people, we always think about, like we put up a scenario in our head. We think what's going to happen, and it never actually happens the way that we think that it's going to happen. So whenever you go in with a specific intent, the impact isn't usually what you think that it is going to be. How does impact work? So it all begins with your intention. Like I just talked about, you go in with a specific intent, which leads to your action. Your action is what you actually do. How are you going to go about that? Your perception. This is actually the perception of the person that you're speaking to. That would be where your five senses come in, your what is seen and what is heard. Interpretation, how the people or person that you're speaking to interprets what you're saying, and then your emotion, and that is where your positive and negative aspects come in.
Perfect. Thank you, McKenna. So, like McKenna just said, we already talked about how there's positive and negative impacts. However, I want to talk about the three classifications of positive impact. The first one being social and psychological wellness. This has to do with the specific interactions that we have with people every day. It's not exactly leadership, and it's not exactly organizational structure. Instead, it's an everyday occurrence that we go through with those around us, whether it be friends or family. The second classification is the organizational structure. This one is similar to leadership, except that it's a bit more relaxed, and it's understanding where you are in the organizational structure. Whether that have to do with where you sit exactly in the organization and how you interact with others, or how you interact with others to allow those above you to lead. And then this leads me to leadership. Leadership is exactly what it sounds like, and it's leading those around you towards a common and positive goal. The importance of these three classifications is to understand that, like my quote on the board says, recognize that every interaction you have with anyone is always an impact, to make a positive impact on others. And this leads me to my positive impact pathway. First, we start with positive relationships. The importance of positive relationships is that you work with others and that you each have a common goal with one another. The second step is positive communication. This is important because without positive communication and wanting to communicate with one another, there will be no communication. And the third step is positive meaning. This is one of the most important, and it's because without positive meaning, you will not have a relationship with that person. And then this leads me to my positive conclusion. This is one of my favorite steps because how many of us remember when we had a fantastic conversation with someone, but it ended in a negative manner or in an awkward manner? We don't. And for the most part, if you do, the main point that you got out of that is how awkward the ending was. And this leads me to my final point. Something really unique about LEAD is that we have a Family Friday, and it's typically about an hour and 15 minutes of time that we get to talk and kind of think over the things that we're going over. And another part of LEAD that I love is every year we have a kickball game. We had our kickball game this year, and it was a fantastic experience, but during our Family Friday, I thought of an analogy that I really got from Impact and compared that to kickball. So we've all played kickball at one point in our lives, and it has to do with running up and kicking the ball. This is similar to life. And when you play kickball, you have no choice but to kick the ball eventually. This is similar with life. At the end of the day, we all have to make an impact on someone, and we get to choose whether that's a positive or negative impact, how far that impact goes, and how important it is to that person.
So as you can see behind me, these are milestones that we are going to be milestones that we're going to be achieving whenever we go through this process of self-development. Throughout these milestones, whenever we are going through them, we're going to be using everything that we have talked about throughout this presentation so far. The perseverance, the loyalty, the sacrifice, the empathy, all of those things we've talked about. We're going to be implementing those in our milestones. So let's go ahead and dig into our first milestone, and it is simply self-care. Taking care of yourself, getting ready for this next step that we're going to go through, because as you can already see, it's kind of one that we don't really like to do. Reflecting on our hardships is something that's very hard for us, and so self-care allows us to just take a moment and to relax, do something that we really enjoy. It's kind of like at the end of a long semester where you're absolutely pooped and you really don't want to do anything academic related. So self-care can look different for everybody. It kind of looks like maybe going to get a cup of coffee, hanging out with friends, going to the gym. Whatever that looks like for you, do it. And that will lead us into our second milestone, which is reflecting on our hardships. And what I mean by hardships is something that has just been a really hard time in your life. Maybe you failed a test this semester and you were really kind of counting on that one to boost your grade up in that class. Maybe you got in a fight with your mom. All of those hardships can be something that we look for whenever we're trying to find what is our lesson from this hardship. And just as Bill George, author of Discovery True North, says, that it is hardest to cope with your crucibles whenever you are in the midst of them. For you may feel so much pain during that hard time that you don't know what you're trying to look for. It's not like we sit in the middle of a fight with our mom and we're like, man, what am I learning from this? We don't ever think about that right there in that moment. It's fight or flight. We're ready to get out of that hard time. So after doing our self-care, we're mentally ready to dig into that hardship and to reflect on that. And this whole thing that I'm trying to say is that whenever we reflect on our hardships, we find our strengths. That is what is valuable within our hardships. They show up consistently and naturally within those times. And so maybe you look back on that failed test and you're thinking, okay, Although I failed the test, I know that I was really good at organizing my notes and my thoughts. I knew exactly what I needed to do whenever I was preparing for that test. That's strategic thinking, that's organization, those are strengths. Maybe you're looking back at that fight with your mom and you're thinking, okay, it really sucked that I got in a fight with my mom, and it's so sad that I did that, but maybe during that fight you realize that you were able to learn something about your mom that you wouldn't have known if you had not gotten in the fight with your mom. Maybe you learned some empathy or relationship building within that time, and that's exactly what we wanted to find. Because once you have found those, you're able to apply them to your daily life, apply them to your schoolwork, to your job, with your coworkers, with your family, whatever you're going through in your life, apply your strengths. And as we do that, we are able to empower ourselves to empower others, and that's what Quinn is going to talk about next.
Okay, so like McKenna mentioned earlier during Rick Frigsby's video, he talks about the analogy finding your broom. If you want to make an impact, find your broom. By doing this, you attract people, that way you can impact them. I will be discussing community impact using the relational leadership model, which Jillian had mentioned earlier, comes from the book Exploring Leadership. It says framing any group or organization around a shared purpose as a community enhances relational leadership. This reminded me of the community service projects we did last year, which Jess talked about earlier, about how we had a shared purpose, and that's part of what made us empowering leaders. The book also recommends 7 community building principles. Being committed, which can be compared to loyalty, which was also mentioned earlier. Being mindful, being unconditionally accepting, being concerned for both yourself and others, being understanding, being ethical, and being peaceful. It doesn't take a grand motion or idea to produce change. It begins with 7 simple community building principles. The point we're trying to make here is that you don't have to be superhuman to make an impact. You have an impact on people in your everyday life. And by positively impacting one person, you empower them to have a positive impact on others. We have a demonstration for you.
Alrighty, if my lovely assistants would turn our table right here. Nice and carefully. Perfect, look at that. These are some real professionals right here. Okay, so today we talked a lot about the strengths that we use to empower other people. A good baseline for this was servanthood, servant heart, consistency, and impact. So, with these great baselines, we can really empower others. Here's our little monument of empowerment. We hope you enjoyed this, our summit today, and we're just so thankful for everyone that's here. We just want to give a big shout out to Rick and Missy, Dyke and Terry, and also Cole. Thank you so much for your words of impact and empowerment towards us, and we're just super thankful to be here.
That's a big step. Thanks. Y'all, thanks so much for being here tonight. I know I can speak on behalf of Rick and tell you that we are so proud of these guys. They've been working on this since September, and they have done all the research they did. We've been practicing and all of the things, and we've had some incredible help from our campus partners. So we'd like to say thank you to not only the JBK staff in the back that helps all this technology stuff that I definitely couldn't do by myself. We'd like to thank Evelyn in our Student Affairs Marketing Department for helping us get everybody here, design the t-shirts, all the things. Dr. Carolyn Baum, Ms. Paula Schlegel, that were our celebrity judges, and they helped these guys really with their presentations and overcoming some stage fright a little bit, which we think you guys did really great. You all killed it. And then also, Cole, thank you for being here. We really appreciate your time, and Shiloh also for joining us, and then also Dyke and Terry for coming to always support all of our students. So we have some giveaways here for our students, and so if you were given a ticket, if you will pull that out, we're going to draw some. You guys can sit down if you want to. Okay. Actually, can somebody stay and draw? Okay. If you were given a ticket, pull that out. We're going to draw for some giveaways. Yes. And then also after that, I'm so sorry, what? She's bringing it. After we draw, we have t-shirts as well for everybody, and we'll give you instructions on how to collect those as well. All right, Aaron's going to draw the first one. And then, Allie, will you go back there and help them choose it? All right, ready? Okay. 327144. Who's that? Yay! Okay, so you can run back to the back to Allie and you can choose your prize. Congratulations. Yes, a round of applause. Thank you. All right, 327146. Somebody's got to be kind of close. All right, we got another winner. Okay, that table's really popular. Mix them up real good. Okay. Thank you. All right, 327132. Oh. Good job. I'm glad you can go choose your prize, Josh. Yes. One more. All right, the last one. 148. And we got a winner from this table is really popular. Good job. Okay. To the back. Yes, you can collect your prize back there. All right, so students, the students that are here in attendance, if you guys will make your way to the back first and choose your t-shirt. We have short sleeve and long sleeve, and we have some junior lead scholars in the back that will help you get that. And then once our students get them, we'd love for the rest of you also to take a t-shirt home to remember this wonderful summit vibe. Awesome. Okay, so thank you guys so much for being here. We appreciate your time, your support, and let's give the senior lead scholars one more big round of applause. Good.